Sunday provided one of the results of the weekend as Thomas Tuchel's team were blown away.
All Towns just awaiting an opening goal. Aronson going and getting it! Oh, a howler from Mendy! Chelsea everybody back in from Harrison Rodrigo! This is getting better and better for Leeds United! James, how many they're committing to the attack. Now Forshaw is free at the back post. A famous win over a famous old foe. A first victory over Chelsea in 20 years.
Well, Tuchel was very improved performance this weekend when Leicester travelled to Stamford Bridge. The away side themselves have had a poor start to the season with only 1 point from their 3 games. Let's get some managerial thoughts ahead of this one. Brendan Rodgers, but first, Thomas Tuchel.
We absolutely dislike to lose, and as painful as it is to analyze these things and to look at it again, it's necessary, but we always get a response once the reasons are obvious, the reasons are clear. Still, we are in a period, maybe the last week, where we had a full week to prepare a match. The team, I think, is hopefully well prepared and ready to go for tomorrow.
It's always a tough game. You play against a top team. They showed in their last home game against Tottenham. They're a very good side, technically good players, and have that ambition and motivation to want to win. So and they'll look to bounce back from their last game against Leeds. So yeah, we anticipate a tough game, but we're looking forward to it.
Yeah, both sides come into this match really in need of a win, aren't they? And in the last hour, we have heard the news that Thomas Tuchel will be serving his 1-match ban from the dugout in this game. So he will not be in the dugout at Stamford Bridge when they face Leicester. However, he is allowed at the ground. He's allowed to do the team talk. He's allowed to speak to the players. He just won't be allowed in the dugout. How's that going to affect the game, Jermaine?
I've been in situations in the past where I've had, obviously, naturally, managers on the touchline, and it's so easy for them to get their point across. When they're in the stands, they're on the headsets talking to the assistant manager, and the time difference between the manager passing the message on to the coach and the coach getting the message on to the players on the field, the momentum has already swung, and the pendulum's already swung, and the moment may have already passed. So it's vital that whoever's on the touchline, coaches, assistant coaches, get the point across as quickly as possible to make the most of it, to make it work.
Well, it's not ideal, is it? Especially off the back of what was, to everyone else apart from former Leeds striker Jermaine Beckford, a surprise result. Everyone else apart from former Leeds striker Jermaine Beckford, a surprise result against Leeds last weekend. Was that a blip, or is this kind of evidence of something a bit more deeply rooted at Chelsea that's going wrong?
I think it was a little bit of a blip. I'm basing that on the performance against Spurs the game before. I think that game was fantastic. There was so much energy, determination. Manchester United team, the work rate, the first thing that they had to work on was work rate. And they didn't seem to do that in the Leeds game.
You know that we've been talking about this. You know about a weakness on the Chelsea goalkeeper that they were able to exploit.
I do, and in the first clip there, the first goal, Brendan Aronson closed down Mendy, managed to pinch the ball off him right on literally a yard outside of goal and scored. And I was speaking to Brendan a few days ago, and I said to him, for what reason was it that you gave? What reason did you close him down in the manner in which you did without compensating to try and block the clearance? And he said to me, well, a few minutes prior to that incident, Mendy tried to do the exact same thing to Dan James, and Dan James went for it. But in Brendan's mind, he said, OK, no problem. So I see that you're confident on the ball. You're going to try and chop the ball back onto your left foot and play it out to your left back. Brendan, the ball back onto your left foot and play it out to your left back. Brendan didn't give him that opportunity, so he won the ball off him and managed to score very easily.
And conceding goals has become a real issue for Chelsea in their last 30 matches. If we look at the 60 games that Thomas Tuchel has been in charge of, 15 goals. In the last 30, that has exactly doubled. They've now conceded 34 What's that down to, Darren? What's happened
here?
here?
With the stats, Jules, I was just about to mention that.
I got there first, yes.
But you're right, you're absolutely right. That is the reason why I think this is going to be a very tricky game. And a little bit of a spoiler alert, I did the predictions, and I actually predicted Chelsea to win this, but I'm not certain about it at all, because I think as far as the defence is concerned, there is a weakness that bleeds into last season, and he doesn't know how to solve that picture. So that's probably the right picture that you've picked of him for this graphic. I think as far as Koulibaly is concerned, he doesn't provide that organisation, but he's not going to be available because he was sent off. He doesn't yet have that missing piece of the jigsaw, that third defender that he's trying to sign.
Well, it adds an extra element to this game because, of course...
The Fofana derby, of course.
Yeah.
But I think as far as he is concerned, Tuchel, it's going to put pressure on him this season, because you can only use the fact that he's had to be involved in transfers so far. And then eventually, if they start to fall away, and for us guys in the media, this is a fabulous season because you've got all of the top six, the established top six in rude health. You've got United, maybe the pulse is still beating a little bit. But if Chelsea are losing their way, that's a really fascinating subplot given the amount of money they've spent.
Your former club, Leicester, as well, Jermaine. What kind of season are you expecting them to have after the way it started and the way their transfer window has gone?
Based on the key players, Kasper Schmeichel leaving, the hoo-ha around Wesley Fofana as well, you would have to say it's not looking too bright, especially with no signings linked with the club at the moment, at present. And you could see in the interview Brendan Rodgers gave a short moment ago, the frustration is starting to creep in with him a little bit as well, with what's going on with the lack of transfers, the lack of fees available, funds available, sorry. So I just hope they're able to utilise Jamie Vardy as much as they can while they can. Patson Daka, I hope he hits the ground running as well. But we're talking about relying on somebody that is known for his explosive pace in Jamie Vardy, but he's also getting older. So that explosive pace is not necessarily going to be there for as long as Leicester City possibly need it to be. Maddison is a fantastic football player, but, you know, you can't rely upon these few key players for the duration of the season every season, because sooner or later they're going to go for a dry spell where it just doesn't work for them. And you need the rest of the players to kind of help out or get those fresh legs in.
Do you think it might be a case of once the transfer window closes, because there's been so many rumours around the club about who might leave, who's going to stay, who's still going to be in a Leicester shirt or not. Once that window closes, do you think everything just might settle down?
James Maddison obviously has interest from elsewhere. Yuri Tielemans won't sign a new deal. And we all know what's going on with Wesley Fofana. The problem with Wesley Fofana.
Don't worry, I'll help you out.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Dream team.
The problem with Wesley Fofana is that once you have that defiance, and by all accounts, and for us in the media, it's quite. We obviously observe what the manager's saying. Brendan Rodgers was saying that when it was Harry Maguire, he was exemplary in his conduct when he knew that Man United wanted to sign him. And he's quite pointed in comparing that to the conduct of Fofana this time around. So clearly there's an issue there. And if you have that open defiance towards the manager and the authority figures within the club, does that affect the other players as well? Does that maybe undermine the manager's position with the other players as well? So there are all sorts of issues, I think, going on there that I don't think will be helped by the window closing. If anything, there's no way of being able to remedy that situation once the window closes.
OK, let's hear from a couple of more Premier League managers now. Liverpool take on Bournemouth. Let's hear the thoughts of Scott Parker, but first, Jurgen Klopp.
I'm really happy that we have the opportunity to play at home now twice. Especially now on Saturday. And we understand the situation. I have a sense that our people understand the situation as well. And so I'm together, team and crowd, to make things happen.
It's one where we need to try and get something out of this game. We need to go there with a real air about us, and all the work we've done this week in trying to put that into practice, really come off a positive result in midweek. But of course, I'd be lying to sit here, a team just newly promoted going to Anfield. The challenges what we faced over the last couple, and even Aston Villa I put into that bracket, have been big ones. But so this is another one we face.
Well, Liverpool face Bournemouth this weekend, and for Liverpool, they've started the season slowly by their standards, still yet to pick up their first win, Jermaine, and the level of performance hasn't been what we're used to seeing in the same intensity that we're used to with a Jurgen Klopp team. What's going wrong there? What's that down to?
I would say it's the loss of the key players in midfield, a lot of key players in midfield that have gone. Konate, the centre-half, I think he's a huge loss. I think he's absolutely brilliant, but not necessarily to play in front of Van Dijk and Gomez, but to push them as well. So between the three of them, Liverpool have got three brilliant centre-halves. With them being out, maybe they've taken their foot off the gas just ever so slightly. The midfield is a huge, huge issue, a huge problem for Liverpool. You look at James Milner, you look at Henderson as well. Thiago. You've got Keita, you've got... There's so many key players up top, Núñez. Look, we're talking about 6-7 players missing that are absolutely vital to Liverpool and how well they played last season and why they were so feared and so ruthless in attack.
And some of these goals that we're seeing that they've conceded, Darren, are you seeing some uncharacteristic errors from the Liverpool defence?
Yeah, when we saw the footage a second ago, Van Dijk with his arms behind his back, I mean, James Milner spoke for all Liverpool.
For the Sancho goal.
For the Sancho goal, where he basically got stuck into him. And then for the last goal we saw a second ago, Rashford's goal, Gomez with his hand up, appealing to the referee. I mean, that's just so basic. And I think as far as Jurgen Klopp is concerned, I think he's going to make so basic. And I think as far as Jurgen Klopp is concerned, I think he's going to make some changes. And I think he may even go into the market. Normally, Liverpool as a club are very, very patient. They don't get rushed. I remember the season before Van Dijk arrived, and lots of people were saying they must be wanted to wait for him. Part of me thinks it might be quite dangerous because in a title race of fine margins, you can't afford to be dropping as many points as Liverpool are dropping already. But the way they do their recruitment there, it's very patient, very considered, and I think they will wait for the right players to become available rather than panic.
At the other end of the pitch, you've already pointed out that obviously they're missing Núñez because of that red card. And Diogo Jota is also out injured since, pre-season. And
since I put him in my fantasy team.
Since he's been in your fantasy team, Darren. And so now we're looking at the team where last season Sadio Mane in the side. Are we now missing him if you're a Liverpool fan? Sadio Mane in the side. Are we now missing him if you're a Liverpool fan?
I would say so. It's difficult to argue otherwise, isn't it? Liverpool going forward last season were electric. They were so exciting. They could attack you from... Diaz is doing really, really well. But then Mo Salah's slightly off the pace. He scored against Manchester United, but we want to see more from him because he set the bar so high.
That's one of those rare things I disagree with you on. I mean, Mane was 30, and I think, how long do you keep him for? And my view of Diaz, I think, how long do you keep him for? And my view of Diaz is that it's not as if Diaz has not been scoring goals or playing well. I think as far as Liverpool are concerned, the move with big players.
I think they sold the wrong one.
Really?
Yes.
I thought Salah's scored goals for fun.
So is Mane. But Mane's all-round game is based around the team, more so around the team, not just the goals, the assists as well, and the third player movements as well, whereas Salah is about him being the main guy, scoring the goals and doing what we've come to become accustomed to seeing over the last 2, 3, 4 seasons. So I think if there's a flip of the coin between which player you want to lose, not that you would want to lose either one of them if you're a Liverpool fan, but I would say you would prefer to lose Salah over Mane.
Salah goes scorer for Liverpool.
He'll get that in no time at all. He will get that in no time at all. But it's like saying Cristiano Ronaldo at Manchester United. He scored. But it's like saying Cristiano Ronaldo at Manchester United. He scored, 18 goals for Manchester United last season, but did he make them a better team? Not necessarily.
I think Salah makes Liverpool a better team. He gives them this of others to be able to break the deadlock. He is a guy that can conjure up a goal out of nothing. That's why I'd go with him.
But then if you put 2 players on him, then there's very little he can do.
But doesn't he then create space for other players?
Which is where Mane comes into his own, because he knows this already, so he's moving. I would, as a striker, much rather play with Mane than Salah. Okay. Because I know if I'm in a great position, Salah's going to go for goal, Mane's going to look for the pass.
That's really interesting stuff. And Bournemouth now have a huge task ahead of them. I mean, what will they have learnt from the way that Liverpool have dropped points in their first 3 games?
That they're not invincible. And they're there to be attacked. And you have to use the physicality about it. You have to move the ball very quickly as well. But with Bournemouth, have they got enough at the moment to put Liverpool under that amount of pressure? I'm not entirely sure. You know, out of the teams that have been promoted, I would say they are probably the most likely to get relegated, to go straight back down again. I'm sorry about that, Bournemouth fans.